Challenger 2 tanks belonging to the British Army are already on the territory of Ukraine. In the steppes of Ukraine, you can see British Challenger 2 tanks, which were supplied by the UK to Ukraine. This happened in mid-January of this year when the UK announced that it would deliver 14 Challenger 2 tanks. The delivery of these tanks is an important step for the Ukrainian army, as the Challenger 2 is a full-fledged main battle tank, unlike the AMX-10RC light tanks that France is also planning to supply. Recently, the UK announced that it will increase the number of tanks delivered to 28, which will help to significantly increase the combat power of the Ukrainian army. In this video, we take a look at the British Challenger 2 tanks and their contribution to the combat power of the Ukrainian army. First, the story of the tank's history is not only interesting in itself, but also explains why the Challenger 2 tanks became the Challenger. In the 60s and 70s, the Chieftain was the main battle tank in Britain, but in the mid-70s it became apparent that its performance was significantly inferior to the latest Soviet T-72 tank and the older T-64. The MTV-80 project was launched with Rolls-Royce as the main contractor, but in the late 1980s it became clear that the project was being delayed. Even at the prototype stage, it became obvious that it would not be able to compete with the T-64. There was no talk of anything else but the T-72. But as the saying goes, there would have been no misfortune, but misfortune helped. In December 1974, Iran ordered 125 Shear 1 tanks and 1,225 Shear 2 tanks, which were developed by the Chief from the United Kingdom. However, after the Islamic Revolution in Iran in 1979, the contracts for Shear 1 and Shear 2 were canceled. On February 6, 1979, the new Iranian government notified the British ambassador of the termination of military contracts. The British managed to sell 274 Shear 1 tanks to the Jordanians, but they decided to create a new British tank based on the Shear 2. They added more armor, installed additional engines, and the Challenger 1 was born. But the strategy of making it out of what we had did not work. The tank turned out to be a failure. Consequently, British tank builders immediately began work on the second Challenger model, which was conceptually a copy of its predecessor. The shape of the turret and hull remained unchanged, but major changes were made to the tank's electronics and armor. In particular, the combined Chobham armor was replaced with a Dorchester material, which consists of a shock-absorbing layer, steel, and ceramics. The new armor is said to be twice as resistant as conventional armor steel. In addition, the tank can be additionally equipped with Romor dynamic protection units to improve the tank's passive protection. Several special camouflages and coatings have been developed to reduce the tank's visibility in the thermal spectrum. 2 5-round L8 smoke grenade launchers are responsible for camouflage and can throw fragmentation charges and infrared jammers. In addition, the Verse system can create a smoke screen. The most controversial aspect of this tank is its armament. The standard ROF L30A1 rifled gun, which remained virtually unchanged from its Chieftain predecessor, is a subject of debate. Although the barrel length was increased to 55 calibers, the rifling was retained, making it one of the few rifled guns in the world. The decision is still being debated today. The British reflect their conservative approach by keeping the King and rifled gun on the tank. Due to its rifled barrel system, this gun cannot fire high-explosive shells, as the excessive rotation of the barrel does not affect the formation of the high-explosive jet. Therefore, shells with a normal charge shape are better stabilized in flight not by rotation, but by a smooth barrel that does not use rifling. The absence of barrel rotation improves the formation of a cumulative jet and significantly increases the armor-piercing ability without limiting the projectile velocity, which can exceed 3,280 rounds per second. A smoothbore barrel also has a much longer service life than a rifled barrel. However, the rifled barrel contains pieces of depleted uranium, which is also a significant argument in its favor. The argument satisfied the British military, and the Hesh ammunition was chosen as the main projectile for the Challenger. They're capable of killing lightly armored vehicles such as armored personnel carriers, as well as neutralizing long-lasting concrete structures. In the case of enemy tanks, the British tank was content with armor-piercing rounds, but in the absence of ATGMs, they were necessary. Stress and temperature fluctuations can significantly affect shooting accuracy, but not in the case of the Challenger 2, as its barrel is chrome-plated and protected by a thermal shield that reduces these negative effects. Barrel life is also not a problem, as the use of electroslag remelting of steel allows to achieve a service life not less than that of a smoothbore shotgun, 500 shots. Another conservative decision that was made was to manually load the barrel separately. This means that there's no automatic charging mechanism as in Russian tanks or the charging mechanism found in most Western tanks. The loading operator has to take a cartridge case from one place, put it in a tray, then take a cartridge with powder from another place and an ignition tube from a third place. Thus, the loader's rushing around like the devil around the cauldrons in hell. This is especially difficult to do while moving and over rough terrain, so a high rate of fire is difficult to achieve. However, splitting the shot into 3 parts significantly reduces the likelihood of detonation of the ammunition on impact. The armored ammunition containers can hold 52 rounds, which is a sufficient supply for combat. The fire control system is quite effective, but not reliable enough. The ballistic computer has 2 32-bit processors. The commander has access to a SAGM VS580-10 panoramic sight with gyro stabilization and laser rangefinder, as well as a TOGS 2 sight with night and thermal channels. To provide an overview of the battlefield, the tank's equipped with 2 wide-angle high-definition cameras. The tank's engine runs on diesel fuel. The initial versions of the Challengers were equipped with 26.6-liter Perkins CV12 engines with a capacity of 1340 horsepower. After 2010, during the modernization, the tanks were equipped with German MT-883 KA500 engines with a capacity of 1500 horsepower. It should be noted that the speed of the Challenger is not high, as the maximum speed of a tank weighing 62 to 70 tons is only 25 miles per hour. The Challenger 2 tank has an impressive weight and height of 62 to 70 tons and 8 feet respectively. However, it should be noted that this tank was originally designed for the desert expanses of Iran, not for the streets and bridges of Europe. During the war with Iraq, Challenger 2 proved to be very effective. Its tall design provided excellent visibility in the desert, and the rifled gun, stabilized in 2 places, had high accuracy. British tank crews shot at Iraqi T-55s from a distance of 1.2 to 1.5 miles as if in a shooting range, and a record was set by hitting an Iraqi tank at a distance of 3.2 miles. The Challenger 2 also participated in urban combat operations and proved to be very resistant to RPG-7 grenade launchers, as it could withstand 5 to 7 shots. However, the Challenger 2 will face the latest Russian tanks such as the T-90, T-80, and modernized T-72, as well as the Kornet and Bassoon anti-tank systems. Although the L-30 rifled gun will give the Challenger 2 an advantage at long ranges when fired from close positions, it may lose out in close combat because the automatic chargers of the Russian guns provide a higher rate of fire than the 3-piece manual charger of the British gun. The tank charger with a couple of incoming shots can reload the gun in at least 30 seconds, but this may not be enough for close combat. Thus, when comparing the British Challenger 2 and the Russian T-90, it's important to consider the difference in accuracy and rate of fire. The T-90 has an advantage in close combat thanks to its automatic chargers, which provide a fast rate of fire, but its smoothbore gun is less accurate at long distances. At distances of more than 1.5 kilometers, the advantage goes to the rifled gun of the Challenger 2. It's also worth noting that Russian tanks are smaller and more maneuverable, but the heaviness of British tanks can create logistical problems. In addition, in the south of Ukraine, where the Challenger 2 is supposed to be used, there's a large amount of open space, which gives rifled guns an advantage. The outcome of the battle depends on many factors, and only time will tell how it will actually unfold. The need to provide everything from shells to spare parts could be a challenge for the logistics of Challenger 2s. Nevertheless, the Ukrainian army can cope with this task. Will British tanks become a heavy burden in battle? This is a question that time will answer. We can only hope for the success of the Challenger 2 in battles with Russian tanks. Events will develop in real time, and we'll be watching. Share your thoughts on the capabilities of British tanks in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and give us thumbs up so you don't miss future interesting reviews.